My entitled Karen of a mother walks out on my family anytime someone says anything she doesn't like, leaving the family for months on end and making me and my father feel like garbage in the process. And after dealing with this for so long, I'm seriously at such a loss, and I really don't know how to deal with my mother or how to move on. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. Okay, so for a bit of backstory, I am a mousy 18-year-old female, and I'm finishing up high school and my 2-year degree. I am first in my class. I've been awarded many honors for my academic achievement and athletic ability, and have participated in academic camps, including a month-long summer camp where I focus on mathematics, as well as several other camps at universities across the nation, and this will be relevant later on. I live with my mother and father, and it is because of them that I work so hard. Now, moving on to the story, I'm beginning to feel resentment towards my mother because every time I offer constructive criticism, she just leaves. She's done this since I was a little kid, and has done this more to my dad than to me. If you act sarcastically towards her, she takes it as a real statement. If you say you're crazy while laughing after she said a joke, she thinks that you are insulting her. All of this can be avoided if you know that she acts negatively towards it, but like in all healthy relationships, one thing can't be avoided, and that thing is constructive criticism. Beginning in January of 2023, her demeanor towards criticism became increasingly more hateful after one event. My first and only boyfriend, a boy whom my mom and father quite literally forced me to date originally, made a dire mistake. I love him dearly, but he made the mistake of using a phrase with my mom that is a no-go in our house. My mom was joking with him, and he jokingly said, "Oh, get out of here." And it was like the world came crashing down. My mom instantly hated him, and once she hates someone, there is no turning back. Regarding her immediate hatred towards him, in the following weeks, I was keeping him up to date on if relations were getting any better. I made the mistake in our private messages of sending a certain meme that involves Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron that more or less says that she is mad. What I didn't anticipate was that later, my mom, in her typical fashion of being controlling, went through my phone. She saw the meme and it was immediate hysteria. My mom was screaming, crying. She was throwing items at me, telling me how awful of a daughter I had been. I was told that I was an ungrateful jerk. She told me that they had been lying to me about my IQ and that I was not actually that smart. Then, without listening to my explanations of the meme, she packed her things and then she left. And I don't know why, but I was surprised. She had done this several times before, but it was never towards me. It was always me and my dad or just my father. For weeks, she would not even talk to me. She stayed gone for a month, unwilling to say a word or listen to a single thing. During that month, I was home alone many nights, from where she let my father know where she was staying and he went to see her. Those long nights, I stayed on calls with my boyfriend, who seemed to blame himself for the situation. He encouraged me to go stay with his parents who live nearby, but I felt like such a burden. I didn't want to ruin anyone else's life. If my own mother didn't love me, then who could? A few months went by and my mom came back, and she just pretended like nothing happened. According to her, she had left to lick her wounds. I got accepted into the prestigious month-long summer camp, and during my time there, I was struggling. It was math like I had never seen before. It was proofs and topology. And if you don't know what that is, in my eyes, calculus is elementary in comparison. In the midst of this, my mom texted me almost every day to say that she wanted to begin filling out college applications while I was there. I told her I didn't want to do that just yet, and not thinking as I should have been, I told her that she was stressing me out. And this was about halfway through the month of camp. I received no further contact from my mom, and my father came to pick me up alone and then took me away on a vacation for the weekend. Since then, I have turned 18 years old and I still am with my boyfriend, which is much to my mother's dismay. I'm about to head off to college, and in celebration, I was considering going to Japan. My boyfriend is in the army and is deployed to Korea, and this trip has been a lifelong dream for me, so it's perfect timing. My father supports it, as he still absolutely loves both of us and sees us as everything he wishes he would have been when he was younger. My mom, however, is saying that she's gonna leave my father if he supports us being together or if he lets me go on the trip. In addition, she wants to force me to stay off campus at my future university so that I can stay in a house with her. She has also mentioned wanting to have a room in whatever house I own when I'm out of college and living there the rest of my life. Meanwhile, she continues berating me about how I'm lazy, conspiring against her by wanting simple adult freedoms, and is being very verbally and emotionally awful towards me as always. If I'm having a bad day and have droopy eyes or eye bags, she thinks I'm giving her a look. I get the silent treatment almost every day, and when I'm not getting that, I'm hearing all about her job and how she hates it and how every one of her friends is a deadbeat and all this other stuff. On top of everything, I've caught word that there's a shiny gift to be expected from my boyfriend once I get out of high school. And this is all per my dad's arrangement, so I have no idea how to deal with bringing that up to my mom. So honestly, do I sound like the jerk here? My mom and dad do work hard to care for me. They do push me, but I guess it does make me do better regardless of how depressed and anxious I may feel now. I know they both really do love me, but they struggle to show that. My mom is a typical Karen according to my classmates, both via her attitude and her appearance, which mirrors the stereotypical highlighted A-line cut, but even then I still hope that she loves me, because at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this outright. No, of course the original poster is not the jerk. Your mom is awful. She is literally an awful human being. What you've described is so unbelievably nasty, and it's so unbelievably immature. So anytime anyone says anything to her, she just packs her bags and just runs out the door. Like, what kind of mother would do that? Like, that is not a good parent or even a parent to begin with. It's incredibly manipulative, and it's just so incredibly toxic. Like, the original poster walks around on eggshells every waking moment of their life, wondering if what they're gonna say next is gonna set this lady off. And then just like that, she's gonna play the victim and run off for months on end. And your dad is no better in this situation either. He's allowing this behavior to happen and essentially saying, okay, I'm gonna go visit your mom who had to run away because of you. Even though he's not like specifically articulating that, his behavior and actions speak way louder than any words he could possibly say. Now, it's very clear in my opinion that now that you're an adult, your mom still wants to control every aspect of your life. That's the only reason why she's like, okay, for college, you're gonna live with me, instead of you living on campus and living a normal college life. The other evidence of that is her being like, oh, I'm gonna live in the house you live in after college. And I've gotta say this quite honestly, if you do agree to that and give in to her weird demands, this behavior will never stop. This is all just a form of manipulation where when she doesn't get her way, or when she perceives some form of like criticism, she runs off and gives you the silent treatment just to punish you. Because in those few months where she's gone, you're sitting there wondering, oh man, she hates me. She despises everything about me. And it prompts you to have all these terrible thoughts. And that, in my opinion, is one of the worst ways of manipulation, for me at least. When someone gives me the silent treatment and they refuse to have like an adult conversation or some kind of like discussion in some kind of way, that to me is so hurtful, especially when it's someone that I love and care about. If it was a stranger, like who cares? But this is your mom we're talking about. This is someone you thought you could trust and like lean on, but clearly she's not mature enough to have any kind of conversation. Like, I'm amazed that your dad is stuck with her for this long, especially with her abandoning the family anytime someone says anything. So in my opinion, you are definitely not the jerk. Your mom is crazy and you do not deserve any of this treatment. And hopefully with you going away to college, and hopefully you decide to live on campus, you're able to have a lot more distance from your mother and have a better perspective on the way she's actually treating you. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled boss tries to demote me and cause me to lose over $9,000 in wages, all because he couldn't hire somebody else to help me out in my job. So I decided to get some revenge by quitting on the spot and finding a better job, leaving my boss in an awful situation that he would have to figure out. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at a jerk like that in my life. Here's what happened. A few years ago, I worked at a janky 2-bit company. The boss thought he was a big shot as well as God's gift simultaneously. He had such a big head, I'm surprised he could get through most doorways. He used to drink beer at his desk for lunch and would often arrive at work very late. He was also an insufferable muscle bro and walked around as if he was carrying rolls of carpet under each arm. This guy seriously was a massive jerk. A few months into my time there, the company starts winning large orders, so he asked me to set up a small-scale production line to increase capacity and tells me the new hire will be situated there. So I design it, I set it up, I test that it all works, and I'm feeling a sense of pride with what I've accomplished. And you know what? It worked like a dream. I was confident that it would work really well for the new hire, and because I'm an engineer by trade, everything was perfect, and only I knew how to fix stuff that went wrong. Nobody else asked how it worked before, making some very detrimental decisions. A while later, there was an issue. He couldn't hire anyone willing to accept such an awful wage and boring work. So the big shot boss had a bright idea to try and demote me and make me governor of my creation. But there was no way I was going to work for $9,000 less. I immediately started job hunting, and I told him if that's your final offer, then regard tomorrow as my final day. Well, he begins to panic that he's committed the company to a $1 million order for shipping in 3 days' time. During his alcohol-fueled panic, he tells me to write up highly detailed technical manuals and processes for my replacement. Now, for reference, the production line included some precise handwork, so he got pretty upset when I said I can't do that in one day. He also didn't specify what they should contain, and considering I had no help from him with this project and only endured a lot of complaints, I thought to myself, screw it. If he wants a manual, then that's exactly what he's gonna get. I then created a Word document with convincing titles like Technical Manual, Product Version 2.0, as well as how to do this precise task. Inside the documents, for example, was a picture of the popular Pokemon Pikachu with its face looking very surprised. And I also put Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys looking lost in the document as well. Then below all of that, I put down one line of text. It said, "This manual contains all the information I could find or was given." The file sizes would also indicate a lot of text was contained within thanks to the images. Therefore, at face value, they looked legitimate. So I saved them to my laptop in an equally legitimate looking folder that afternoon, and early the next morning, I came to work to collect my belongings, as well as do some handovers. And when I was doing that, I found that the laptop had vanished. I said my goodbyes to my colleagues, and I looked over to see him looking incensed with a beer in one hand. He was so angry, he didn't even look up from his desk. A friend told me later that the company missed the production deadline, despite him working 12-hour days to catch up. And apparently the client was extremely angry. So I guess the moral of the story is that you shouldn't screw over good people, because in the process, you might just hurt yourself as well. Wow, that boss was completely out of line. Instead of paying somebody more money to try and work for his stupid company, he decides to demote the person who's actually making them the money in the first place. Like, seriously, buddy, you just bit the hand that feeds you. And the original poster has it right. I mean, if I was in his shoes, there's no way I would ever put up with that kind of treatment. Like, this guy might as well have been pulling $9,000 out of the original poster's pocket and throwing it in a bonfire. Like, that is seriously not okay, and I don't blame them for looking for another job, because the way they got treated was completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that it's her fault that our sons now hate and ignore their sister? Because right now she's really upset after what just happened, and I am seriously at such a loss that I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I have 3 kids. We have 2 boys ages 15 and 14, and a girl who's 12 years old. While my wife is a great mom to all of our kids, she always had a special bond with our daughter. I wouldn't frame it as a classic favoritism, but as a little bit more attention and love. The boys were always aware of this and teased their mom with it jokingly, but it was never a problem because she really is a great mom to them too. A few weeks ago, my 14-year-old boy, we'll call him Jim, that's not his real name, as well as our daughter, who we will call Anna, also not her real name, had a big fight and a screaming match. It turned out that Anna took Jim's AirPods to her dance class, forgot them there, and tried to lie about it. My wife intervened and apparently took Anna's side. I wasn't there, so I don't know. My older son, who we will call Alex, also not his real name, intervened on behalf of his brother and told his mom that she is unfair. Well, my wife doubled down and told them to get lost and that Anna is more important. Now, here's the thing. My boys swear that she said that Anna is more important than them, but my wife swears that she said that Anna is more important than a pair of AirPods. Alex exploded and called his mom an awful name. He took his brother and then he left. My wife called them for hours, but they just didn't answer. In the end, she called me and I picked the boys up. Now, the relationship between our boys and their sister has been gone ever since this. They don't talk to her, they ignore her when she approaches them, and they simply won't tolerate her presence. When she enters the room, they leave, and it is heartbreaking to watch. My wife tried to mend things and talk to them, but she gets aggressively ignored as well. Yesterday, my wife had a breakdown and started to cry after we went to bed and said that home life has been an absolute nightmare for the last few weeks. I had little sympathy and I told her to suck it up because it is her fault. Well, she then called me a jerk and cried even more. So honestly, am I the jerk? I know I am technically in the right here, but my wife is already devastated and remorseful. It's now my job to help her mend the relationship between the girls and boys in our home. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so I don't think you're the jerk for being honest and being like, hey, you pretty much did this yourself, but you need to pair that comment with some kind of action. If you just leave it at that and do nothing to try and mend the situation, then in my opinion, that's going to be like an awful scenario. That's going to make all of this get worse and worse, and I just don't think that's going to serve anybody well in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think there's a lot of things that need to be worked out, and hopefully for the sake of you and your family, everything can eventually eventually be mended back to the way it was. My husband fully explained to me as to why he cheated on me, and I'm now at such a loss and so devastated that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My husband and I are in our 40s, and he cheated on me with a girl in college. She's 21 years old, but he started the affair when she was 20 years old about 8 months ago. He's been cheating on me off and on for several years since I started menopause. And you know what? I found out while looking through his phone. He has an active dating app, and he set his age range specifically to 20 to 27 years old. I mean, he was never going to tell me he's cheating on me. I calmly told him that I know he's cheating on me, and he sighed and apologized, while also being relieved that I know because our marriage has been dead since our sons moved out. I asked him why he would cheat on me with someone so much younger than me, and honestly, the love in our marriage has been gone, and I'm more bothered by the fact of his age range being so low. It's just gross because our sons are the same age as these girls my husband is going after. My son's fiance is in their early 20s, and it's gross that my husband would go after her if she was single. Well, my husband told me that they are simply more attractive and that they are carefree. He told me not to take it personally because men will always find younger women attractive and how it's in their biology. He told me that older women can't compete with younger women, and he also said that she's bubbly and she's kind, she's full of life and she's not ugly, she doesn't have wrinkles when she smiles, and she isn't annoying. She isn't boring and she's fun, and she can drop what she's doing right now and come on a spontaneous adventure. And everything he told me just really hurt me so much. Those words kept replaying in my head at 4 in the morning. I can't sleep, and I keep thinking about how lifeless and boring my husband thinks I am. I told him that we're middle-aged, and our bodies aren't meant to be out all night binge drinking and going on random midnight trips. We have responsibilities to think about. He says I'm making up excuses now because my husband has energy, and he's full of life, and we don't have kids in the house anymore, and now I'm just making excuses for myself so that I can remain old and boring. And he might be right, but I'm not 21 anymore, and I don't desire to do 21-year-old things anymore. As for our marriage, he is leaving me. He's not leaving me for this college girl. They aren't even together anymore. He just wants a bachelor lifestyle. The boys know and they love us both, and they just want us to be happy. But I don't know if I can ever be happy. Not because of my husband leaving me, but it's because I can't get over the fact that he is right about me being lifeless over the years. That hurts more than the affair, knowing that this is true. I want to feel alive again, but I'm seriously at such a loss and I now don't know what to do. Well, I think we can all confidently say that your soon-to-be ex-husband is a massive jerk. This guy was clearly a deadbeat, and I honestly feel so bad for the original poster. They don't deserve this treatment at all. So honestly, on one end, I'm kind of glad you're away from this jerk, but also I really hope you're able to move past this, because the man you were married to is not a good person, and I really hope with time you're able to move past this and be the best version of yourself you ever could be. Am I the jerk for supposedly ruining my brother-in-law's reputation simply by telling the truth to my friends? Because right now, my brother-in-law and my in-laws are incredibly angry, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, I want to say that all names in this story are fake. So my in-laws are currently furious with me for hurting my brother-in-law's feelings and reputation with my friend group. Recently, my single brother-in-law, Chris, has been hinting at me to introduce him to a woman, and I've refused. Chris has been single for almost 3 years, and he's been having a really hard time meeting women. He tried flirting with my friend, but she had been cold and non-receptive. And this friend is a woman by the name of Grace. Grace is not interested in him due to his inability to be faithful, and she wasn't physically attracted to him either. He tried to flirtatiously engage with her during a small party my husband and I had last Saturday, and this was a party for my husband who got a long-awaited promotion, so it really was just a small party. But during the party, Grace had grown frustrated with his incessant flirting, and at some point told him in no uncertain terms that she found him physically ugly and that his physical ugliness is only surpassed by his ugliness of his character. She told him this in private, so no other guest heard her scathing review of his personhood. Well, Chris left the party, and the following afternoon, while my husband and I were nursing a wicked hangover, my in-laws, to my surprise, called me up and scolded me for having embarrassed and mistreated Chris. After a few minutes of us shouting back and forth on the phone, I reminded my husband that handling his family was his job. So while my husband argued with his parents, I reviewed our security cameras. And honey, Grace verbally tore him apart. Grace reminded him that he cheated and divorced his late wife by the name of Lily, all while she was battling cancer, and that he then got dumped by his mistress for being a cheater as he continued to cheat on her. Grace told him that he wasn't a man of any significant value other than the few coins he had in the bank, and that there's no way in the world she'd ever entertain his delusions. She also said that the only thing he had going for him was his overbloated job title as an executive director to a third-rate company that will probably collapse in the next 5 years. As a parting gift, she told him to consider some cosmetic work to improve his haggard appearance, and perhaps to start praying for divine intervention to fix his rotten soul, since there is no way a psychotherapist could ever come close to fixing whatever is wrong with him. Well, my in-laws and Chris feel that I should not have told my friends what Chris did because he's now perceived by my girlfriends as a terrible person. I told them that he was unfortunately a terrible person, and people would have found out what happened between him and his wife anyways. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I not only don't think you're the jerk, but I also think Chris really should not be invited back to anything that you do. Like, this guy does not sound like a good person at all, especially based on the fact that he cheated on his wife who had cancer. Like, this guy sounds like an awful human being, and I just would not want that around my house ever in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think you're right that Grace would have found out about Chris's behavior pretty much no matter what. And in my opinion, any problems he has with finding women is literally his own fault and not yours. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.